PTR has gotten an update, and we have some pretty interesting changes. One of which, Protoss is back and possibly better than ever. Let's go take a look. Alright, so there's three big changes here that I really want to take a look at. The first one is for Zerg. Larva spawn rate increased from 10.7 to 9 seconds, and queen mineral cost decreased from 175 to 150. These are both really big buffs for Zerg and will absolutely improve the quality of life for Zerg players. And in fact, they kind of help mitigate some of the nerfs that happened a few years back. There was a point in time where Queen's auto-injected, Chrono Boost was infinite, and Mule's auto shot down and started mining minerals. And during that time, the Larva was reduced from 4 for an inject down to 3. And once they took away that auto mechanic because they realized it was a little bit too easy to use, they actually never changed the Larva back to 4. They kept it at 3. So Zerg's been down that Larva for the last 2 years here. And now we've been able to adjust and kind of make use of it. But this going down in 9 seconds is going to greatly mitigate that damage that was done with those previous nerfs and really put Zerg into a very strong position, possibly even too strong. The 25 reduction on the Queen is also a very nice touch for Zerg players. It allows those extra Queens early on into the game, helps with defense, creep spread, and overall just good utility purpose. Additionally, I want to talk about the warp research going back to the Cybernetics Core. This is very important for Protoss players. Now, warp research again is still being reworked, and that core identity is still being attacked a little bit. They are definitely pushing towards less warp gates and more gateway production, but they have reduced the cost of each of those warp gates, transforming from 50-50 to 25-25, making them a little bit more affordable for Protoss players. But more importantly, the very, very early game, if you do a 1-gate build, Protoss players constantly building units out of that first gateway while the Cybernetics Core is researching warp research. With this previous patch, as they put it on the gateway, those builds were no longer viable. A lot of Protoss players are finding a very, very weak early game, and I saw dozens, if not hundreds of people on the PTR who had 70 to 80% win rates as Zerg and Terran versus Protoss because they were doing all-ins that hit around the 4 to 5 minute mark, and Protoss just had no units to defend with because they just finished warp. So this is a really big change for Protoss, puts them back into a strong early game, allows them to keep up with the rest of the races. The third change I want to talk about is the warp research actually providing a 40% boost to gateways, up from 35. Now this might not sound like a big deal, it's only a 5% difference, but it's actually pretty big. In fact, Zealots are now the fastest building units in the game. Outside workers, of course. Zealots take 16 seconds to build after this warp research is finished. Zerglings take 17 and Marines take 18. So you can actually produce Zealots faster than any other unit, which is honestly a little bit ridiculous. But it does put Protoss back in the driver's seat, no longer falling behind in the early game, and actually stands a chance to utilize this new warp research. And if they want to avoid those warp gates, it is absolutely viable. I'll let you guys go over the whole patch notes and figure that out on your own. I'm not going to go through everything. However, I do want to touch on the three big ones here. Is Zerg getting the increased Larva rate? Absolute buff for Zerg. Will be amazing for Zerg players, and it's going to really help them stick with the flow of the game. It will allow certain players to utilize their builds a little bit more efficiently, while also providing just some nice general speed ups to their economy and their unit production. Additionally, Protoss warp research, going back to the Cybernetics Core, is huge for Protoss. They were losing quite a bit in the PTR, 70-80% loss rate. No longer will get bullied in the early game, and I think that's really vital as Protoss was starting to look unviable for a while there, and you really want to make sure that the game is balanced and all three races are playable. So I do think that that's pretty important. Additionally, the 40% speed up is quite the buff there. While, yes, you are trading the ability to warp units in anywhere, which I touched on in my last video. And if you haven't watched that, I suggest you go take a look at it. Go into a few more details of the PTR as a whole there. But trading the convenience of warp for the speed of your production is pretty viable. And when you compare it, if you look at a 6-gate Protoss versus a 6-gate Protoss, one using Warpgates will, let's say, you get 30 stalkers. For every 4 units that they build, a person who has gateways only, but warp research, will get 5 units. So it'll be 30 stalkers versus 36 stalkers in that particular situation that we were just talking about there. And that 6-unit difference is quite drastic. That's something that will absolutely turn the tides of a fight. So you, as a Protoss player, really need to look at it and say, hey, am I going to build really, really quickly and have this huge army as fast as possible? Or am I going to have the convenience of being able to warp into the enemy base, or warp into a warp prism at the enemy base, warp into my main to defend a drop, my third to defend a split push? And you have to trade that convenience for overall raw power and production. And so it really does allow Protoss to have 2 different playstyles in a sense. And if you do want that convenience, you have to pay for it. That 25-25 will cost you a bit. But as a whole, you're actually better off without being able to warp units in. If you look at just the raw production power, Protoss will have a bigger, stronger army, and the Stalkers and Zealots building faster than any other unit in the game. Honestly, Protoss might be in the best position they've ever been in. You guys let me know what you think. Leave a comment. Is Protoss going to be too strong, or is Zerg going to be too strong now that they have Larva back? Did Terran buffs in the overall patch mitigate what's happening with this update? Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Oh, and before I forget, if you're looking for a competitive gaming community where you can learn and grow together, come check out the Angel Armada Discord. I'm trying to build a place where people can learn and grow and really improve themselves, find consistency, and rise through the ranks. I want to get rid of this stigma that gamers seem to have where we feel the need to do everything on our own. We learn everything else through life from other people. Teachers and mentors that teach us how to drive and cook and do math and everything else in life. Yet when it comes to gaming, we sit there and we say, oh, I have to do this on my own. And then people get stuck and frustrated and unhappy. Where at the end of the day, it's a video game and you should enjoy your time playing it. So I want to create a community where we can help each other grow and rise to the ranks together. Additionally, I do offer coaching that you can check out on my Fiverr. If you want more specialized practice and really want to grind to improve, that's always an option as well. But either way, come check us out, join the community, and rise to the ranks together. Ascension Awaits.